Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Down with Doug, just doing another maintenance video on my 5th gen 4Runner. Today's episode, coolant. Toyota calls for this coolant to be changed at 100,000 miles and then subsequently every 50,000 miles after. I've gotten a little lazy the past couple weeks because I just haven't had time. So right now I'm sitting at about 60,000 miles, but we're going to go ahead and get this coolant changed today. All you really need, 2 gallons of coolant. Go with the Toyota pink premix stuff. There's really no reason to substitute it. I got this for I think $16 a gallon online at one of the online sales. I ended up picking it up right at my local dealership, so there's really no reason to get any other coolant. I use this EP Auto funnel kit. There are tons of other options out there. This one had great reviews on Amazon. I've already used it on 2 different vehicles and it works great. Other thing you're going to need to change not really to change, but to drain the coolant out of the block is either a 10mm wrench or 10mm socket with extension. There's a bunch of videos out there about not draining the block, but when you drain the block, you get almost another gallon of coolant out. Draining the radiator really only gets you about 1. And then you're going to need just a piece of rubber hose. This one's 3/8 inside diameter. I believe it's what I used the last time, and I've had it sitting around, so pretty sure it's for the coolant. First things we're going to need to do, make sure the vehicle's cooled off. You don't want to be doing coolant while the vehicle's hot, and you'll find out the moment you try to take a hot radiator cap off and coolant just blows up and spills out everywhere. First thing you need to do is pop out the retaining clips that hold the factory fan shroud in. If you have the OEM clips, all you need to do is push them down in the center and they disengage. Just be careful. The older they get, you will find out that some of them break. Like that one. Yep, came through. I think there's 13 of them in total. If you need to, you can use a little trim tool to pull them out. I usually just have a couple of these little plastic dishes sitting around to keep spare parts in while I'm working. And then this should just pull right up. So this is where you want to be careful. My vehicle's been sitting here for well over an hour. It is cool, but if you are warm and you want to be careful doing this, you can always get a microfiber cloth, put it over top. That way if you're pushing it down and a little fluid or vapor comes out, it's not coming back on you. So just pushing down the radiator cap. I did leak out a little bit, but no hot steam, no hot vapors coming in your face. Once you get the radiator cap off, you're just going to want to sit it aside. I'm going to get the camera out of the tripod here. Next thing we're going to want to do is to go down under the front corner of the car. Now I took the wheel off. You do not need to take the wheel off to do this, but it makes it a lot easier to get to the coolant drain from the block, which sits back here. We'll get to that after I drain the radiator. I have RCI skid plates on mine, so this is very, very convenient. If you have the factory skid plate, it has a little wing that comes out here. You can still get a drain hose on this, but you just need to work at it to get it up through and in. I have the factory skid plate over here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. With the factory skid plate mounted, there's actually this little plug that you can pop out and angle the tube up in to get to that drain valve. All right, now that we're set up back under the vehicle, we're just going to want to drain this into a container, and we're going to put our hose on the end, and then we're just going to crack the petcock open. You don't really want to use tools to do this. It shouldn't be more than finger tight. Once you loosen it, you should start seeing a steady trickle of coolant coming out. We're just going to wait till this completely drains. I'm just using an old plastic container that I have. I usually keep a few extra jugs around just for doing things like this. This coolant still looks brand new, but it's suggested to be changed every 50,000 miles after the initial 100,000 mile change. So we're keeping up on the maintenance because I want this to last a long time. While this is draining, I'm going to skip ahead and show you how to remove the wheel well liner. I have these aftermarket shrouds on mine. I believe they're rad rubber, but the OEM shrouds come off the exact same way. It's just a few retaining clips. Let me try to get a better angle at it. So here's the panel. I just got to pop down these retaining clips. I don't really have to take it off. I just got to get the top ones out of the way. These are a little different than the stock clips. These two clips are the only ones that we need to remove. Got some sort of seepage here. I think I might have a bad brake line. I'm going to have to check my brake fluid reservoir. Pretty sure that's brake fluid. Right there is what we need to drain. It has the same 3/8 inch line hose, and that is just a 10 millimeter bolt. It's pretty tight in there, but you can usually get a stubby ratchet, or you can come at it from this angle with a regular ratchet and a couple extensions to get it off. So I'm going to finish letting the front radiator drain, which it's about done, and then I'll be back to show you this part. Crisis averted. I don't have a brake fluid leak. I recently used this jug when I was bleeding. Actually, no, that wasn't even brake fluid. That was differential fluid. I had this under while I was draining the diff. I actually used this to help. I don't know if I helped pour it in or drain it, but I stuck this up here when I was doing this job, and it fell in and tipped over. So that was just some fresh fluid that dripped out. Glad I actually didn't have a brake fluid leak, because that was right where those brake lines are. I'm going to try to mount the camera up just a little better so you can see this process here. Just want to focus. We're looking right here again. It's a 10 millimeter. I'm just going to grab another extension because I don't think I have enough. All right, let's see where we're at. Now I know my hose isn't long enough, so we're going to try to get neat with this. I had this hose specifically for this project, and I forgot about it or what it was for, and then I cut the hose because I needed a piece of it for something else a couple weeks ago. Just supporting my jug. So now we're going to get in there with our long 10 millimeter. We're just going to crack that loose, and you can already see fluid starting to come out. I believe the torque specs on this are 9 foot-pounds. Last time I did it, I just barely made it over hand tight. You can torque it down, but for stuff that light, I usually just snug it up. You can see here in the corner, there's the infamous condenser drain line that people complain that drips and rusts on their frames. This is 5 years old. I've never had an issue. I was gonna buy the stuff to put the extension on it and just route it down a little lower. I fluid film this every winter, so I have not had any issues with rust on frame components. You can see there's a little rust on some of the exhaust bolts, but you're not going to get away from that. So after this drains out, which should be about another gallon, we'll close everything up and I'll show you the fill-up process. The coolant's still draining out of the block, but I wanted to just jump ahead and go over the next part. What we're going to do is we're going to use our radiator funnel set. This comes with a bunch of different adapters that you don't necessarily need for your vehicle. So I'm just going to I keep them. You never know what vehicle I'm going to have someday. But what I want to do is you're going to need this green piece that'll fit the Toyota radiator. It's the same cap shape as the factory radiator. And then I believe this green or blue adapter. And this just fits inside. To make a seal within the radiator. Yep, it's the blue one. So we're going to put that there. We're going to put this on top just like we'd screw down our radiator cap. You'd think it would be easier green, green, blue, blue, but it's not. It doesn't fit super tight. So once you just get it on there that it locks in right there, stop messing with it. I'm going to set all these extra parts aside because I don't need them in the way. So we're going to get our funnel set up. Once I get the drain valve closed on the block, we're going to go ahead and start filling the system up with the engine off. Right now you're getting some bonus footage. I live in central Pennsylvania and we've finally been getting our infestation of lantern flies. I find burning them's fun. I'm gonna get crucified for that. But they're invasive and we're told to kill them by any means possible. We're still draining here. Got about a half gallon out of the block. It's kind of coming out in spurts. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and take that cap back off the radiator just to let some air in the system because it was draining better before I put that in. There's this little stop plunger. It's going to pull it out. I'm going to finish letting that drain and we'll be back. Alright, just finished up draining the block. It took about 20 minutes, but here's what I came up with. This was from the radiator, about 3/4 of a gallon. These were from the block. I'm going to say that's about a gallon. There's still a little extra fluid in the overflow tank, but there's really nothing you can do to get that out of there except for put a siphon pump on it and suck it out. It's such a little amount that I'm not even worried about it. We're going to go ahead and get this centered back up here and go through the fill process, which is pretty straightforward. The little stopper you're going to use at the end, because this is how you're going to end up filling up the overflow tank. Ooh. Off camera while it was draining, I just took some time to clean up some of the trim under the hood. I want my vehicle to last forever. I try to take good care of them, not just maintenance, but cosmetically. So I like to clean up under the hood anytime I'm doing service to the engine. Let's hope nothing's leaking on the ground. This service calls for about 2 gallons. I think the total capacity of the cooling system is just over 2 gallons. I believe 11 and some odd quarts. You can see right now the bubbles are coming up. That's just the air burping out of the system. Once we get this filled up to the point that it's not gulping down coolant anymore, we're actually going to start the vehicle and let it kind of burp itself, purging any air out of the system. The stuff I drained out of this looks identical to this. One of the biggest commons they say that some of these 4Runners have with their coolant systems is the water pump. Keeping your coolant fresh will help prolong your water pump. Some people say, oh, I got 100,000 miles, I got 120,000 miles, I'm going to change my water pump. I'm not one to change things until it goes. Get the second gallon opened up. And this is the Toyota 5050 pre-diluted super long life antifreeze coolant. You don't want to add anything to it. Could you use other brands? Possibly. But as I said earlier in the video, I got this on sale for $15 a gallon, so I don't see the point of putting anything that's not recommended in my vehicle, especially when it's a service you do every 2 or 3 years. This is a 2020 4Runner. I've had it for about 5 years and it has 160,000 miles on it. We do a lot of commuting back and forth to work, and I try to do some weekend adventures where we're driving around, but it's got some miles on her. But the only problem I had with it was a bad rear axle seal, which was covered under warranty, but they're actually not a difficult fix if you're mechanically inclined. So you do want to make sure that you have enough coolant in this tank that as the system starts bleeding and burping, you're not running it dry. Now we're going to start this up and let the system bleed. I just stepped away for a minute. We all know 4Runners are loud, so I wanted to get away from the engine while this is going. Really, you want this to run until you stop seeing bubbles coming out of the funnel expansion tank there. It's been running for 3 or 4 minutes and there's already no bubbles coming out of it. I'm still going to let it run a little bit longer just so coolant can find its way wherever it needs to in the block. And after that goes for a bit, I'll show you how to fill up the expansion tank. All right, we're back. This ran for 15-20 minutes. One thing that I didn't mention previously is you want to cycle your heat off and on. You really want to get it so that the coolant goes everywhere. So this is, at this point, this is where we want to fill up the overflow tank. So that's where this little stopper is going to come in place. You just stick it down in the funnel, it closes it off. You're going to spill a little bit. We're going to open up our coolant reservoir and transplant this from the radiator cap. Try not to spill it. over to the coolant tank, and I'm just going to let it out till it hits the full mark. And then the rest of it we're going to put back in the container and save for another time. This is a really dumb idea. Last thing we have to do is put our lid back on our overflow tank, swap out our adapter for our radiator cap. Just want to be careful while the cap itself isn't hot, the top of the radiator is. See if I'm smart enough to close it the right direction. And we got to put our trim piece back on. It's pretty simple. The whole process took about a half an hour. Well, probably closer to 45 minutes by the time the block drained and I got all the bubbles out of the system. It was getting to a point that it would stop bubbling for about a minute, and then 5 or 6 bubbles came up. So I just left it run a little bit longer. But now that we have it all buttoned up, I'm gonna close everything back up. I will link the tools that I used in the description below. I am a relatively new channel, so some of the links are affiliate links. If you purchase anything from there, get a little bit from it, and I appreciate it. If you have any questions, just drop them in the comments. Thanks for watching.